How everybody? How you doing? This is Warren Dews. I'm the Vice President of Capital Region Independent Media and the publisher of the Columbia paper. And as you know, we do this thing called community conversations where we get to know people, we ask the expert, or we do things just to communicate. Some of our advertisers buy into the program. And today, I thought it's very important since we have people running for different positions and political things going on that I get a chance to talk to my new friend. New friend, who are you?
My name is John Rivero, and I am currently running for Columbia County Sheriff.
So, John, as I talked to you before, we do this thing called get to know, and I just want to ask you some questions and get to know you, so people can make their proper decision on, I guess, who the person is, the best person for this position. But one of the questions that I have for you, man, this is just me not knowing stuff. I live in the Berkshires, so you have like a chief of police in Pittsfield, right? But I never know what the sheriff does. I don't know what the power is, the position, how you work together with those things. Tell me what the position of a sheriff is and how it in my day-to-day life as a person that lives in that market, how do I deal with the sheriff and how do you affect my life?
Well, the most interesting part of the sheriff's office is they are very unique because the sheriff of any county is the only law enforcement head that is elected by the people that they serve. So, to
Okay.
put it in perspective for you, the superintendent of the New York State Police is appointed by the governor. The Hudson City Police Chief is appointed by the city mayor. So they are all beholden to some elected or official or political entity, where the sheriff is beholden to the people that they serve, the people that elect
Okay.
them into office. So that is a very unique aspect of the actual position of sheriff as opposed to other department heads.
All right, cool. What is the biggest challenge facing the county and the law enforcement in the country?
Well, I would say there are two very important aspects that are facing or problems that are facing law enforcement. One is the depletion of members in the ranks. So ever since the George Floyd murder, it hasn't been an attractive profession to be involved with. Being, a police officer, it comes with a great deal of scrutiny. It comes with a great deal of uh, a negative context and conotone, and so it's different. From the early '90s, you were lining people up to become a police officer. That is no longer the case. So the depleted ranks is a huge factor, and that's just not with Columbia County. That's with New York State, and I think that the country, world, everywhere in the United States, it's just tough to get police. And through attrition, you have police that are retiring, and they're just not are the same amount of people looking to fill those empty vacancies. Another issue I would say, across the United States and definitely in Columbia County is the opioid problem. In Columbia County alone, there's been a 33% increase in opioid overdoses in the past 3 years. So that is a problem that needs to get addressed, that needs to get taken care of. And, that's going to be a multi-prong approach that needs to get handled. So I'm up for that task.
So that's crazy you say that. I grew up in the Bronx, man. I'm from the Bronx, and I grew up in a project called Eaton Wall Projects. And we knew the police officers. They walked around. We knew who they were. They lived in our community. And I know over the years that changed. I being a kid from the Bronx, and then I lived in the Orange County, New York area, in Middletown, New York. And I realized, when 9/11 happened, there was a lot of people, firefighters and police officers from that area. They lived there. They didn't live in the city anymore. A lot of them moved there. They worked in the city, but they lived there. The point that
Right.
I'm making is to your point is that people are not running down, banging down the door to be police officers, which I think is it's a shame because I think it is a respectable position and we need people to build relationships, you know what I'm saying? And not just police people, but relationship building.
Right.
How on that in that vein, how do you see the sheriff's department? You have to police, you have to, do your thing, but how do you build relationships with the community that you serve?
Well, the one advantage that we have as a Columbia County deputy sheriff working for that office is that you have to live in Columbia County. So we are an ingrained fabric of this community. I have many, many friends in the New York State Police that, are from this area that I went to school with. And maybe they served here for a short time protecting the people of Columbia County. But once they take a promotion or they take a new position, they transfer to another place in New York State. So they're always moving around. From my career, from deputy sheriff to lieutenant, I still serve this very community that I lived in. and it's a community that I participate in. So your local sheriffs, especially in Columbia County, where we are one of the two major police agencies here between us and the state police, we're your community partners. So, I've been a little league coach. I'm active in my church. I'm active in my children's schools and in my community. And you see that face over and over and over. And it's not just me. Many of the men and women that work at the sheriff's office, both civilian and served, are members of this community. So I think that's an advantage that we have. I just don't know that it's been highlighted enough in the past few years.
So what's the working relationship with the state troopers and the local law enforcement? Chatham, Hudson, Philmont, PD.
Well, I don't understand your question. What's the relationship?
What's the,
As
what's
far
the,
as I'm concerned, we all work together. We're all here
yeah.
to make sure that we keep people safe, that we do our best to do that, and we try to work with each other to make that happen. Now, we all have different resources. We all bring different strengths to the table, and especially like say with a smaller police agency like Philmont PD, which is where I started my career. They
Okay.
sponsored to put me through the academy. We're there to assist with resources, bodies, specialties, different things like that. So, it could be something as simple as training. So if I have a group of, sworn members going to the range to get qualified on firearms, we extend that, invitation to some of our local law enforcement agencies because Philmont Police, with, a staffing of maybe 10 or 15 officers, may not have the luxury of having a firearms instructor in their ranks, where at the sheriff's office, we have several. So, providing that help and that service and that partnership, I think is huge. And obviously I
Yeah,
wish to, expand on that.
yeah, my only question, and we talked about it earlier. I'm someone that doesn't understand the dynamics of that, and I wanted to have a better understanding. Like, I don't who's higher. Is the sheriff higher than the chief of police? Is it, I don't know that the state, I don't know that ranking. Does it, how's that
Well,
work?
I wouldn't say that there's a ranking. I mean, everyone's going to beat their chest in their own sandbox. So, although the sheriff is the highest law enforcement officer of the county that they're in, that I don't think that I would go into the city of Hudson and tell the chief of police that I'm your boss or you're going to listen to me. I would defer to him because that's or her now because it's a female, Mashonda. I'd say what can we do to help you? We'd be there as a partner. As far as the state police, I've had a wonderful working relationship with them. I don't know that the superintendent of the state police would be the head of the state police would come down and, offer their assistance to a local county or even a police agency. But certainly we have relationships with their captains and majors who are their zone area commanders, and we have a relationship with them to get the job done and work together. So, I like to think that egos wouldn't get in the way. We
Mhm.
work together, and as long as we keep the focus on what it should be, the public safety of the people that we serve. um, I don't know that there needs to be a hierarchy or a chest puffing contest.
In my mind, if I'm calling 911 and I don't care who shows up, sheriff, state police, the local PD, I want somebody there that can help me.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because I came from a time where 911 was newly implemented in this county when I was a young deputy. So, like any other, I'll say friendly rivalry, we're all racing to calls to see who can get there first to, be the agency of record. I think in time, we've put that aside while there are still friendly rivalries. But it's interesting you say that because when I was in an altercation and I was fighting for my life, I didn't care who showed up to help me. If it was a civilian, I didn't care what uniform they were wearing. I didn't care, what their race, color, creed, religion, or sexual orientation was. If somebody was there to help, you accept that help and you're happy to have them. And that's what I'm trying to, express, especially in this political age of divisiveness and everyone, trying to find more dissimilarities between each other. Is when you call 911, who shows up matters. I'm currently going door to door and speaking to people, and oftentimes the first question is what party are you with? And my first thing that I say back to them is, well, when I was responding to your house in the past 26 years for a 911 call or a call for service, or if you had a car accident, you never asked me what party I was affiliated with at that time. You just wanted me to catch the person that broke into your house, or you wanted me to write up your accident report. So, um, while I think that it's important to have a sheriff that is representative of the people that elects them in office, I think that sheriff needs to be somebody who is willing to represent everybody in office, whether they vote for them or not. And I've always been that person. I will continue to be that person.
I so appreciate what you just said, man. Like, I've been, and this is something you could search and find. My whole life, I've been a Democrat, and in this business of being a publisher, I don't care who you are, Republican, Democrat, Independent. I just want to make sure that we do our job to tell the story and be fair to everyone. And it kills me when I know that our company is doing a really good job. When I have Democrats and Republicans mad at me at the same time, then I know I'm doing great because
Well,
you
I don't want to say that people should be mad at you. I mean, if they're upset because you're doing it in a fair and impartial manner, that's fine. I mean, if you have Republicans and Democrats mad at you because you're swaying it one way or the other, or you're slanting a story, I could see that being a disdain or a distrust. But I mean, at this point, I'm asking for people to vote for the person, not the party. And that's
yeah.
why on my website, John Rivero, number 4 sheriff.org, I've actually put my resume out there because I want people, Republican and Democrat. So even, if people just vote on a straight line, I want you to know that I am the most qualified candidate. I could have put a bunch of bullets and highlights and a bunch of sound pieces, and touted all of my accolades, but I went a step further and I made it a resume. This is a
Mm.
job interview. I want you to hire me to be your sheriff based on my qualifications, not based on the color of my skin, not based on my sexual orientation or my gender or, my ethnicity, because none of that matters in your time of help when you need the most qualified police officer to come and help you in your time of need. So that's where I take it. That's who I am. It's that golden rule. You treat people the way you want to be treated. And I think, most people would find that they'd fare okay.
So, what are your plans for social programs, especially in jail? Currently there are working programs, gardening, and other things for inmates to have some skills when they get out. What type of things do you think are important?
Well, I think that what I want to see, especially in the correctional side of the sheriff's office, is people that leave there better than they got there. So, meaning that they've had an opportunity to learn something, a skill, service, or just even a self-growth moment that they've had so that when they leave that facility, they are better off than when they came in. Because I think that's the goal of it. My goal is that if somebody comes to the Columbia County Correctional Facility, that the next time that they come there, it's to help somebody that was in the same predicament that they were previously in. So if somebody comes in on drugs, they get there, they get right, they get some services, and they get some help that they need. And the next time that they come to the jail, they're there to advocate and talk to someone and help someone that's going through the same thing that they once went through.
Mhm. So there was I have a friend, his name is Ty Allen Jackson, and he started a program at a jail in the Berkshires.
Okay.
Um, and the program was a program. He's a book author, and he went into the jail. Him and another friend named Eddie. He went into the jail, and they had the parents read the children's book, and they would read the book, and behind them was a green screen. So as the parent was reading the book, the green screen was passing by, and they took a video. At this time it was a DVD, and they sent the DVD to the kid. So the kid was actually at home, able to read Ty's book at home, but read it with their mother or read it with their father that's incarcerated. It's
Nice.
an amazing program, and the recidivism rate on those people that went through that program was amazing because people didn't come back once they went through that program with Ty, and because they had to be dressed up, and some of them had to be taught how to read
Right.
in the program. So he has this shirt called "Read or Else," and it means if someone's not reading at a certain grade level, third grade level, the likelihood of them being on welfare or being in jail increases. So this
Right.
was a really important program. So that's a program that I think is amazing. That types of program. What other
Right.
programs do you think that would be important for you? You mentioned that you want people to be able to come out of this thing, and if they come back, they're coming back to help. But what are the programs you think that are important to you that you would implement or continue doing? Like there was a gardening one. There's different things.
Well, so with that, there are certain restrictions and requirements, especially in a correctional setting,
Hmm.
that of what you can bring in and what you're allowed to bring in.
Yeah.
Ideally, what I would like to have, especially with today's day and age, with people struggling to find employment, would be to have skills-based training and jobs. This way people can get out and then have a partnership with agencies to hire these people, knowing what their background was, knowing what their struggles are, but also at the same time knowing what it was that they went through. So, some things that come to mind quickly are like some type of apprenticeships, whether it's an electrical type of a thing or a mechanic type thing or construction or contracting, because those are ready-made jobs that, if, like you said, if somebody can't read a children's book at a third grade level, how do you expect them to read a speed square or a tape measure or do certain, algebra problems to build a truss or stairs or just to put a window in? But these are all jobs that require bodies and require people. In my experience with most people that are incarcerated individuals, they have that sense of self-worth when they're able to get out and help. So our incarcerated individual work crew, the men and women that participated in that work crew to get little league fields ready for little league fields, in the spring, and for the kids to go and play, and a lot of them, it brought them back to their childhood. So painting a dugout, doing some groundskeeping, and teaching them some different skills to do that type of stuff. This way, when they went out into the world, hey, listen, this is on your resume now. I painted the whatever Northern Columbia Little League dugout, and I helped to put gutters on it. So now it gives them some work experience and it gives them some references, because who better to have as a reference than perhaps the jail administrator who says that, Warren Dew was, in my program, and when he first came there, he couldn't drive a nail, but at the end of it, he was my best gutter installer, and he did so many different jobs, and for whatever the case may be. I think that resonates, and it can show that that person had growth. So I think that something like that could be very empowering and enriching, and give people a sense of a sense of worth, and prepare them
Agree,
to come
agree.
out,
Mhm.
and be a
So
productive member of society.
it makes a lot of sense. So the federal cuts affecting the county, how do you feel the federal cuts are going to affect the county and the sheriff's office?
Well, I mean, I'd have to get in there and see exactly what exactly is being cut.
Mhm.
I know that that was traditionally a lot of what we would call our extra money. That's not money that we necessarily always depended on to run the sheriff's office. During my time there as a first sergeant in charge of administration, I did have oversight of the $13 million budget and the $875,000 that it took to run the office each year. And I'm happy to say that we were always in the black when we did that. And we would use a lot of that federal funding money and programs to supplement what it was, the services that we were providing for the sheriff's office. And, I'd like to think that at least the programs that I'm aware of that we were involved with are going to remain. And even if they're reduced, I'd like to think, especially like in the correctional facility, the amount of incarcerated individuals is lower, and it has continued to drop. So hopefully that offset will still be able to take care of the needs that we have at that agency.
So how do you deal with the whole ICE enforcement locally? How would you deal with that locally?
Well, I have a unique story behind that because I am the product of immigration. My mother came to this country in the 1970s from a war-torn El Salvador, and she came here for a better life. So I have a unique viewpoint on immigration because I understand the value of doing it correctly and the opportunity that comes with coming to this country. Because my mother, coming to this country and starting at the bottom level of cleaning houses and being in the service industry, to having two sons, one who's currently running for sheriff and the other who is a, lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, who graduated from West Point. So these are things that I'm not sure would have been possible, had she stayed in El Salvador. And my mother, she has lived the American dream. She
Mhm.
has seen her children do better than her. She was able to buy her first car, which is an achievement in and of itself, when she was a young woman, to purchase her first home and then second and a third through hard work and determination and fiscal responsibility. And now to enjoy retirement, where many
Mhm.
people her age still have to work, still have to, earn a gainful living in order to keep the lights on. So when you say working with ICE, excuse me, I understand, having worked at the sheriff's office my entire career, that our function at the sheriff's office is to keep the community safe.
Mhm.
As a bilingual police officer in this county for my entire career, for 20 years, I was the only Spanish speaking police officer in Columbia County. So I've been advocating for at least our migrant population that speaks Spanish. A lot of them have my personal cell phone. They've contacted me with their issues because I'm the only person that could communicate with them. So, and believe it or not, when there is a problem in the migrant community, they call me to resolve it. If there's a bad person that needs to be removed, they call me to get that done. So when
Mhm.
you say working with ICE, you know, a lot of people have demonized me because I've been endorsed by the Republican Party. And, there's been comments that I'm going to bring Trump Force One to the Columbia County Airport, load it up with every farm worker and ship them out of here. Well, that's not the function of the Columbia County Sheriff's Office.
Mhm.
Our job is not to enforce immigration and customs enforcement laws. That is what their function is. As far as me, I will work with all law enforcement partners, federal, state, and local, to keep the people of Columbia County safe. So don't get it twisted. If there's a dangerous person that's in this county that needs to be removed, regardless of their immigration status, it is my duty and obligation to get them removed from the populace. And I will do that by whatever means necessary.
Appreciate that. Well, listen, we're coming up on the end of this thing. One of the questions I want to ask you is, why are you the best candidate for this position?
Well, to me, the answer is clear. I have been in the sheriff's office my entire career. I have stepped on every rung of the ladder through promotions, which had to be earned. Nothing was given to me in my entire career. I had to place first on the, investigators list to be promoted. Sergeants, lieutenants, same thing. So nothing was ever, I've never been appointed to something. I had to earn everything I got. And having worked for 7 sheriffs over the course of my career there, I understand what it takes to run that office and what it takes to be a deputy sheriff and to understand the needs of the people of Columbia County, understanding that the county is 644 square miles. It's not just the county of the city of Hudson.
Mhm.
New Lebanon needs attention, and the needs of New Lebanon are going to be different than the needs of Kinderhook. They're going to be different than the needs of Germantown. They're going to be different than the needs of Hudson, Copake, Austerlitz, and every other town that comprises this county. I have a unique understanding of that because I've been here the entire time. I've worked here the entire time, and I can address those issues in a fiscally responsible and professional manner. So that's what makes me the stronger candidate because I've been there, I've done that, and I've done it well.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to meet with me today. Everybody, once again, this is Warren Dews, Vice President of Capital Region Independent Media, publisher of the Columbia paper. And this is a get to know. We got to know my friend here. And whatever happens, I wish the best person wins to do the job for the community. But I definitely want you to know, and whoever wins, that we're here to work with you as a media partner in any
Wonderful.
aspect. So thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you, Warren. I appreciate your time. Thank you for the invite, and thank you to your audience for your time and watching.